Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at Empoleon in the Great League Remix Cup. And you most likely think, why would you ever want to play Empoleon? And this is a good question, but honestly, this Pokemon might be way better than you expect. This Pokemon is completely out of use for already like 5 or 6 seasons or something. Was actually kind of common back in the day, I think like before XLs were a thing and stuff like this. But nowadays you don't see this Pokemon at all, not in the Great League, not in the Ultra League. But back in the day it was actually a really strong Pokemon, and it was like, I battled against someone before in this cup as well who had Empoleon. I won against them. They had like a Grasshole team in the backline with like the Shadow Victory Bell and the Shadow Torterra. I didn't really want to go this route because I recently made a video with like Grasshole kind of with Decidueye. So I decided to build a different team around it, and I kind of want to try this Pokemon out. Why would you want to use it? The main reason for this is this meta is basically built around Skarmory as well as Carping, 2 Pokemon that you're going to be able to beat, and we're going to win this first game there already. But also, what you have to say is that this Pokemon has access to the coverage move of Drill Peck, which is going to give you access to a move that's going to be able to hit also the Poliwrath, which is going to be nice. You have insane fast move pressure with Waterfall, which is stab, and your typing is insanely unique. I don't think there's a single different Water and Steel type. I might be wrong nowadays, maybe there's like a newer Pokemon that has this typing, but this was a very unique typing, at least back in the day. I think it still is unique to this Pokemon, but this is going to give you a lot of really good resistances, especially in the current meta. And yeah, so this Pokemon has a lot of play. Like if we get another Water and Steel type Pokemon that has a ton more resistance. By the way, look at this. I was able to snipe the opponent here with a Dragonite with Dragon Breath. This is why Dragon Breath is better than Dragon Tail. But we're going to also be able to still go for a knockout here against the Gastly, which is going to be nice. As we will see, the final Pokemon going to be a Stunfisk, which is going to be amazing for us, as I can swap out into the Empoleon, which can take even a move. This Pokemon is not as squishy as you might expect. A Mud Bomb is only going to do around like 60% super effective stab move that got buffed and the opponent decides to forfeit. So, I was able to climb up to my highest elo so far for the season with this team. So let's take a look here. We're gonna take a look at the first 2 sets here, plus 1 extra battle that I played afterwards. But let's take a look at this one. We're going to be able to swap out into our Gligar. We are encountering one of the hardest answers to us. Like we have the worst possible lead, the worst possible save swap basically with the Whiscash here. But I can now go for the Aerial Ace spam, and I will be able to realign. No matter what the opponent really wants to do here, I think at least I would be able to realign. But let's take a look at this. We can let the move go through. It's going to be a Scald. Maybe I just don't want to realign. I'd rather have the shield advantage here. Let's see what the opponent tries to do. We're going to be able to take this shield advantage. I will take this. I will let this move go through. And what I can do now is I can get some extra energy with my Empoleon. Getting 3 fast moves in, going to get me very close to the Drill Peck as I can swap out. We will see in the back the Skarmory. And I think I misplayed this game a little bit. Should have went for the superpower a little bit earlier, because now the opponent can go for a Sky Attack, knock me out. I can still try my best, but I have to basically hit 2 Drill Pecks in order to knock out the opponent. First move is coming through. It's going to be the big Brave Bird here, as I'm going to be forced to go for the full farm down. They don't get to another move, and so I have 2 Drill Pecks stored, and Empoleon is gonna go to town. Empoleon gonna go for 1 Drill Peck, gonna do around like 60% as well, and the second Drill Peck is gonna pick up that KO to win the game. Good game there. Next opponent coming up, let's see what they're going to run. We're going to have a Skarmory in the lead, which is amazing for us, but we always have to be a little bit careful with what is coming in. It's going to be the Poliwrath here, which is going to be great for our Gligar. I like Gligar a lot because they're going to be able to outspeed the Poliwrath with the Aerial Ace, which is something that is, in my opinion, insanely important, because other flying type Pokemon just don't really have that speedy charge move, which is kind of awkward then, because Icy Wind is coming very fast as well against you, and the opponent decides to actually use a shield, which is a little bit awkward. I'm not the biggest fan of this scenario, because this kind of forced me to use my last shield as well. I can still get the knockout for sure, and I can still realign, but what I basically allow the opponent to do here is, I allow them to get a ton of energy with their Skarmory. I cannot swap out, because basically our only answer for the Skarmory is our lead, and this is kind of also how the ABB style line here works. You have 2 flying type Pokemon in the back. You have to keep your lead alive for Pokemon like the Skarmory. But as you can see, they go for the Brave Bird. I can try to swap out. It's going to be the Superior. And maybe I make a little bit of a mistake here. What I'm gonna do is, we're gonna see. We're gonna be able to go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw would be able to knock them out eventually, but they can still go for another charge move before. Dragon Claw does not knock them out from this range as far as I know, so I can go still for another one here. But I don't know, let's see. We're gonna see that it's going to just barely get the knockout, but I don't get to the next charge move. And so it comes down if I can knock out the opponent here. I know that Hydrocan would have not done half of the health, and so sadly they can still go for the Brave Bird and win this game. Very sad that we cannot take 2 Brave Birds, but it's going to be fine as the next opponent going to lead with a Gligar. And here we can see basically why the Empoleon is so strong. We have Gligar in the meta, we're going to have the Skarmory in the meta, and we're going to also have a lot of times the Carving in the meta, and those are like one of the most common leads, and a ton of times you're just going to be able to win the lead with this Pokemon, which is just great. Here we're going to see the Charger Bug coming in, and honestly I did not really know about this matchup too much, to be fair, but it's actually way closer than I expected. In a 2-shield scenario, if you just go for the dig, maybe it is better as a Gligar to just go straight Aerial Ace, because 2 Aerial Aces should be enough after a while to knock them out as well. But yeah, I decided to go for the dig the entire time, which is going to force me to use another shield here, which is a little bit unfortunate. I tried to get myself basically as low as possible, which is not going to allow the opponent to get too much farm with their own Gligar. I can still get some damage onto them, but it's going to be a little bit of a trickier one, as we're still going to be forced to go into our Empoleon. I can go for 2 more fast moves, and I try to catch a dig, which does not work out as the opponent has the Poliwrath. And I make a huge mistake here. I should have not went for the superpower. If I went for the Dragon Claw, the opponent would have still survived it, they would have knocked me out, but I could have farmed them down with my Empoleon. But like this, they can just go ahead, go for another charge move here, Aerial Ace is coming through, and we can not take a dig here, right? Like, it's going to be super effective stab move against the Steel type. That's not too bulky, but just barely bulky enough to knock them out here, so goodbye there. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We are on the second set already. Kind of fast games as well. Great lead for us. Let's see what they're going to swap into. It's going to be the Skarmory, and this is exactly what we want to see here. Could have went for the Hydro Cannon already, but I can try to get even more farm here as the opponent goes for the Brave Bird. Fine for me, I can overfarm by a little bit and go for the Hydro Cannon now. This is going to be great as it's going to get the knockout. I have still a Hydro Cannon stored. I know that they're going to have the Gligar, and I can swap out freely here as the opponent reveals their final Pokemon being the Charger Bug, and I will be able to just use a shield here. I don't really mind too much what the opponent tries to do, because as long as I keep my Gligar in the back, I am going to be fine, because the Charger Bug cannot do anything against the Gligar. Every single move is going to be resisted. And as you can see, I can get them insanely low, and I can let this move go through, because at this point, I know this game is over. This game is over already for a long time, because the Gligar is going to have a great time there against the opponent's Charger Bug in the back. I still go for one Hydro Cannon, sadly cannot go for the next one, but I still win this game fairly easily. Next opponent, horrible lead, and let's see what they're gonna swap into. Like, this is literally the worst possible lead that I could of course imagine for this team. There's actually 2 Pokemon that I don't like in the lead, or like 2 kind of styles. So you're going to have the Wishcast, which is going to be a little bit tricky. Here, of course, you're going to get walled afterwards from the Skarmory, which is even worse for me. But then you also would have the Dewgong. Dewgong would be a horrible Pokemon for this team to face. Dewgong kind of wrecks the entire team. If you are in a meta where Dewgong is pretty common, then don't play this team. But yeah, you can still actually kind of play around with the lead, but it's not really as great for you either. But in total, everything else is going to be fine. But I didn't encounter a single Dewgong. Dewgong is super rare in my meta, like it's not really a commonly used Pokemon. So I was kind of fine using this team here. But as you can see as well, the opponent is going to have the perfect hard counter to my team. There's nothing that I can do about it. So after the superpower, I can just forfeit like 3 meta picks that just completely hardwall me in a kind of random team. But let's move on to the next one. Next opponent, again, horrible lead for me. I'm gonna swap out into the Dragonite, which I barely really do, but I had to hope that the opponent tries to swap out and maybe goes for a different matchup there, maybe win in the 2-shield scenario, so I can align later on my Gligar against the Charger Bug, which would be the ideal scenario. But the opponent doesn't do this, they don't give me that favor, but I can try to use a shield here and try to go for the full farm down to realign like this. Let's see what the opponent tries to do. I can go for the full farm down, they swap into a Jellicent. This Pokemon might also be a little bit trickier. It is not as bad though, still like your lead is kind of okay for it. I thought I maybe should have been able to get to the Dragon Claw, but not too sure about it. But as you're going to see here in the back, it's going to be the Poliwrath, and if I would have been able to survive this Icy Wind and still get to the Aerial Ace, which you're going to see here, how close that is, I would have been fine in this matchup, but sadly they completely barely like knocked me out in time. I can still try to go for a Drill Peck here, which is going to be a CMP tie, and of course gonna get the knockout against the opponent, but yeah, now you're going to have to deal with a Jellicent. Jellicent being able to resist your fast move. Would mostly not appreciate the Drill Peck, but we don't appreciate the Shadow Ball either. It's going to be sadly a loss here. Next opponent is actually Human Catcher Bug, so shout out to you. I think he stopped doing YouTube as well, but yeah, very strong player. Already won a regional, which you can see as well by the shirt they have on. Like, we are battling here, by the way, close to like leaderboard, yeah, meta basically, or leaderboard elo, which is kind of cool. So we have like some high up battles with the Empoleon here. This is no, like, I don't know, 2000 ranking or whatever, it's 2800 plus, which is just mad for trying out something like this. It is the thing as well, like, I most likely would be way higher on the leaderboard. I wouldn't say that I would be like top 50 anymore, I would say, like, not consistently at least, like sometimes maybe, but I'm just not really in the, I don't know, flow for it. Like, I still do too many mistakes in my battles nowadays. But yeah, back in the day I actually was able to hit rank 1 in the world as well before, but those days are over since content creation. It's just not really feasible for me to wait in queue for like 3 hours. Like, honestly, back in the day, when I was like, rank 1 on the leaderboards, I think I had like 80 points as well, like above the second one. It took like an entire day basically to do your entire sets, which was just like, I don't know, it's just not really rewarding. You don't really get anything from being on the leaderboard. But here we're going to be able to still win this game. Nice River there, but our water spice was a little bit better. Next opponent, we're going to encounter a dub wall in the lead. Again, something that I kind of want to swap out here. It is not the worst lead ever because Body Slam is resisted, but they of course still have access to the move either Wild Charge or Payback. So they're still going to have some neutral damage, but they also have super effective damage with their fast moves. But they're going to stay in quite a long time for Gligar, which is going to underline our switch clock, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I definitely should have went for the dig instead of the aerial ace. I thought I would be able to still get to another aerial ace. I don't, and if I went for dig, I think I would have been able to go for the full farm down. Yeah, for sure I would have been able to go for the full farm down. So this would have made a huge difference, like a ginormous difference, because I didn't have to go for this charge move here, and I would have had a ton of energy, which would have been great for me. And so this was again a mistake by me. Like, it was something that I could have improved for the next one. And here we have, you saw it even in the recording, an insane amount of lag. I think I would have got the opponent a little bit lower if I didn't lag immediately when I got into the battle, which would have definitely changed a little bit, I would say. But let's see how much it could have actually impacted, because I feel like I would have got the opponent lower, because I was literally lagging for like an entire second or something like this. But as you can see, we can go for nearly the full farm down. I can go for the full farm down over the Empoleon. But I'm not sure if I would have been able to knock them out here as well. Maybe I would have been able to knock them out if I didn't lag with my Dragonite, but good game there. Still very close one there. I could have still won this if I played a little bit better. Final battle for today, we're going to have the Gligar in the lead and the LilyNiRiain coming in. But again, you're going to see here some of the matchups, like, you're always going to have them, but like a lot of the matchups here, I would have been able to win them if I played them a little bit better, and this is something that just comes down to practice. This is also why you see people on the leaderboards barely change their team, like, or like they change their team like once a period of like Great League or whatever, and then they have like a different one, because it is very important to be like familiar with a Pokemon, familiar what you can take, familiar what you have to deal against other Pokemon. And if you swap around your Pokemon the entire time, which I do for YouTube, you just don't get the consistency. But here we're gonna see that they're gonna use 2 shields on their LilyNiRiain, and I was not even too mad about this, because I should have used the shield here. To be fair, it's going to be most likely a Power Whip, but I know that my both Pokemon are going to be okay here. I thought they're going to have a Poliwrath. I wanted to swap out already. I didn't want to go for the extra fast move, but I don't know if my switch clock wasn't up or whatever, or was just like laggy again, I don't know. But they're going to have now the Gligar on the back, and I make a mistake here. And I think it actually, again, kind of came from me not being able to swap out immediately, because now I can still go for a shield here. I know that they're gonna get to another aerial ace, but I thought if I just go for a little bit more damage, I should be able to farm them down with my Empoleon and then still get to another charge move here, but I sadly just don't have the health. If I didn't, like, basically, if I swapped out immediately, if I would have been able to do that, I would have been able to most likely win this game as well. But again, like, this team was actually way better than you expected. Empoleon really worked out well, so I would actually recommend you to try this one out. If you don't encounter any of the Dugongs, then you're going to be fine. Dugong is completely instant kill for this team, but if you don't encounter it like I did, it's going to be a really great team. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and check out the videos on the screen, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.